people, Tracy Reed here today with day 2, story 2 of our December daily. And today I'm going to be using this adorable Christmas tree album that I created for the festive line. It is a cut file. I created this album on Instagram already for the festive Instagram hop, and I'm just going to add to it today and figure out a way to put it in my album. So I did cut out this photo, and I remembered after I printed it that I had shrunk the size of this album a little bit smaller than the original file, just because I wanted it to be fit into the album perfectly, the 6x8 album. So I'm just going to go ahead and wing it and cut along the edges of this photo. This is going to be the back of the album. And what I'm thinking I want to do is I want to adhere this to a piece of acetate to go in my album. So I just wanted something on the back so that it just wasn't a white piece of paper. Um, and then I will find a way to incorporate it into the next story in my album, maybe, or maybe I'll just make a one-page story in my album for day 3. Who knows? We don't know yet. But I am just going to trim this out and cut it along the edges. And it's not perfect. Some of it is a little bit, there's a little overhang, especially at the bottom, but you can't really tell because I have those trees down there, and so I just decided to go ahead and leave the overhang at the bottom on the back. So I'm just going through, and I had already printed these photos and designated where they were going in the album. So this part is just me putting them in the album. You can see that the placeholder white little piece of paper that I had there says tree lit. So I knew that the picture of the lit tree went there. And then I'm going to work my way from top to bottom and just fill in these blanks. So Joe hand, it's a picture of Joe's hand. You know, it's kind of hard to see on film, but it's a picture of Joe's hand during the Christmas tree lighting. The Christmas tree lighting in Knoxville is pretty cool. They not only light the tree, but they have fireworks and they have laser show. It's really actually pretty neat for a, you know, not a huge town, not a huge city, little tree lighting, especially since because it's not a big city, you can get real close. We were super close to the stage and we got all of the confetti in our face, so that was pretty cute. So I'm just putting these in here. You can see I've already done all of the work, which was super fun. I could go in here and do more. I could be more extra, but I decided not to. And that's okay. Some days you just want to kind of get it done, get these memories documented. So what I initially planned for this album was just to stick it in the rings via the binder ring that I'm hanging it on, but I decided that wasn't stable enough for how much this album is going to be picked up and used and all of that. So by putting it on the acetate, it does add a bit of weird bulk to the acetate, like some heaviness, but I figured that was the best way to get it to be stable in my album. So you can see I have this piece of acetate out here. I could put it on cardstock. I could have done that, true, and that probably would have been more stable, but I'm nothing if not unstable, I suppose. So I'm just trying to see how big a page protector is, just to make sure before I cut this. It's 8.5 inches, so I only have to cut once, which is good because it's hard to cut acetate. It's 8.5 inches by 7 inches, so that's how big I cut it. And then I decide to be super extra because I can't just go a single video in a December daily album without being super extra. And I'm going to take that stencil from my Happy Holidays line for Echo Park paper that I used on the front of the album, on the acetate that's on the front, and I am going to use it on the acetate here too. First, I'm going to adhere this album down with my tiny attacher. I just stapled it rather than tried to use any sort of liquid glue or tape runner because you would see that, and I don't like seeing the adhesive. So the staple is always the best option for me when I am using acetate. So I've got this glitter paste that I'm using, and I'm just putting it through the album. I could have been super smart and not put the album down first, but I knew that I wanted to only put this down where the album was going to not be, because obviously there's a photo on the back, so I just figured I would be super careful and Luckily, I made it through without messing up too much, and I'm just using the stencil, trying not to get too close to the album and make it nice and thin so that it dries nicely. So I'm going to do the other side now, and then I'll do the rest off camera so that way I can mess up and you'll never know. There we go. So the key here is to make sure that once you get it all through the stencil, it goes down super thin. I did not go as thin at the bottom when I go off camera because I got a little bit weird and impatient. So it is thicker and I do mess it up a little bit. That's okay. You see, there's the mess up. We're turning the camera off. While I let that dry, I did go ahead and start the pocket side of this page because it does face a pocket, or a pocket protector from the other side with the 1 4x6 and 2 3x4s. So I knew we needed to put something in there. So I decided to go ahead and make a title card, and I'm using the chipboard alphas from the festive collection to add to this photo that I took downtown before the tree lighting started. And I'm just going to give it the name that they call the event, which is Celebration of Lights. And I'm using the red candy striped alpha to spell out celebration. And my mouse was giving me fits. I think I need a new magic mouse. So this was a little bit annoying, and you can see it's just like, you probably can't tell the way I could tell when I was using my mouse, but it kept not selecting things and not selecting enough things. It was the weirdest thing. You can see I'm trying to select here and it's just not working. So I had to switch mice to make my computer work, and great, and I gotta buy a new mouse at Christmas time, but whatever. So I'm making these a little bit off, like they're not a perfect line, because I don't know, for paper scrapbooking, everything always has to be aligned perfectly and beautiful in my albums, like perfectly symmetrical. But when I digital scrapbook, I like everything to be a little bit wonky. It's an interesting like difference in the way that I scrapbook that I've noticed before. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think it's because there's no actual texture, so they can overlap without causing problems. But because there's actual texture like foam thickers in paper scrapbooking, you can't really get that effect very well. So I like it to be perfect since I can't make it overlap. Now I'm adding Knoxville in the same fonts that I used for the collection, because that is a perk when you've designed the collection. You know what fonts to use. So that's awesome. Knoxville's, that's the wrong font. I'm going, oh wait, that's not right. So I had to go and look and see what was right. There we go. Knoxville's Celebration, and then at the bottom I'm going to add of lights. Perfect. And I do add a little bit of shadow even though it's text, because I like to separate it from the background just a little bit. You can see it's like a big shadow rather than something that's super defining. That way it adds a little bit of separation from the background and makes it easier to read. I added the same shadow to the celebration as well, because even though it already had a shadow, I didn't feel like it stood out enough. I'm going to decrease the opacity just a little bit. All right, perfect. Now this is done. The last thing that I have to do is add my journaling to, you can see my mouse messing up. It's just not clicking and dragging. Add my journaling to this journal card that I want to use. So I always use the same font throughout all of my albums, and it's called Splendid 66. I also use it for, I use it for everything. So I'm going to use that and make it black. Then I'll add in my journaling line by line. See, I'm just struggling with my mouse. I just had to turn it off because the mouse was just killing me. So I'm just copying and pasting, and then I changed the words. Then I decided to add these some of the gold vellum snowflakes from the festive digital kit to my title card. And then I will go ahead and print, and we will move back to real world, even though, as I found out, the bottom of that transparency isn't quite dry yet. So I'm just going to stick these right in the pockets. This is going to be super simple. On the back of the last story, I did decide that I didn't want that Making Spirits Bright. I'm going to go with a different card instead. I didn't think well, it wasn't that it matched. I think I needed something lighter. So I took out the Making Spirits Bright and went with a different card instead. And I decided to add some glitter and enamel dots from Citrus Twist Kits to the center of these snowflakes, and I added a couple more all around just to make a cute little cluster. Once they are stuck to the photo, they are stuck to the photo, so make sure you're putting them where you want them. Perfect. Maybe. A little over. Ah, can't move them. Okay, whatever. Put it in the pocket, and then I'll change out the other card, and we will move back over to the album. And I really like the way that we have like a really simple side and then a more crazy interactive side. You know me, I love interactive scrapbooking, so anytime I get to turn a page or make a little, I don't think I've ever put a mini album within an album before, but this is always fun to have a first. Being real careful here, and I still mess up that little star down at the bottom, but whatever, I'll fix it. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Traci Emerine. I'd love to see you over there as well. There is a link in the description box below to the blog post for this video so that you can get the credits and pick up any products that you might want that are featured in this video. All right, thank you.